Brett Goldstein, an Emmy Award-winning actor and a two-time WGA Award winner for Ted Lasso, who is nominated again at the WGA Awards this year in the comedy series category as a writer. Brett, I know season 2 of Ted Lasso was kind of already maybe mapped out, let's say, before the show like exploded in popularity and critical acclaim in season 1, like a lot of the beats. But can you talk about how maybe the writing of season 2 was affected by the relationships of the characters that you guys saw playing out in season 1, and how those characters are mixing together, I guess, beyond like the beat by beat story points? Like, how did you guys, did that affect how you guys wrote season 2, let's say?
That's a really good question. As you mentioned, there was no the show hadn't come out when we started writing season 2, so none of it was written based on how the audience felt. You know what I mean? We stuck to the original plan that Jason had. In terms of putting characters together, there's a thing Bill Lawrence always talks about of like at some point the actor takes over the character that you wrote, and definitely by season 2, I think for all of us it's like now you know who plays those characters and how good they are. It's really, season 2 was more fun to write because I was excited whenever it was my turn. It was like exciting to write for Higgins, to write for Rebecca, because you're like, they're gonna fucking kill it, you know what I mean? Like, it's quite fun to, it's the thing Jason says is, it's the sandbox, and now we had our action figures and we know who these action figures are and we know what they're capable of. And so it was certainly more fun, particularly with the jokes, to write this. And even with the drama, like the episode, Jane Becker's episode at the funeral, like that Rick Astley bit, Hannah's gonna be, it's exciting to read it because you're like, this is going to be amazing because she's so good. You know what I mean? So there's definitely a lot more of that.
Yeah, for sure. Do you obviously a lot of the including yourself, our actors on the show are writing. Do you do you enjoy writing for your own character? I guess, like you were just saying, like, I don't know, how does that work? Like, are you able to divorce, I guess, your performance as Roy from writing for Roy?
I try. I don't know how successful I am always. I try not to. Oh, guys, I'm sure the other writers would say this is not true, but I think I don't pitch a lot of Roy's stuff because I'm like, well, I should step back and let the room. I'm sure the other writers would go, that's fucking bullshit. But I definitely, I love all the characters equally. And, and also Jason has a very clear vision for each of the characters, where they're going to end up, where they're going. So there's that as well. In terms of, I definitely can massage how I would say a thing on the day because, that's the luxury of being Roy, I suppose. But you're also talking about, taking myself out of this. There's a fucking good group of writers. Like, they're really good. You can just, you can trust them.
Right. I want to ask you, you're a writer. You were credited on 2 episodes. One, when I went back and looked, because before this, I was like, wow, it was episode 6 is The Signal, which is such a incredibly important episode. So many things happen in that episode from a story standpoint that you ricochet into the final 6 episodes or whatever, from Nate's turn to Sam and Rebecca reveal to Ted's panic attack. I guess when you got the opportunity to write that one, I know it's like a writer's room, but that seems like a very challenging episode to do because of all those things that you have to bring forward that will pay off later on in the season. So I guess, can you talk a little about like what that process is like and how you guys talked about that episode and breaking it down?
That's everything that you described are all the reasons that I want to write that episode. You know what I mean? Like, as in, that's exciting. I like all the juicy emotional stuff. But then to be honest, from episode 6 on, it's all like, we kept joking. Me and Jason were joking about it because I don't know if you were aware of any of the discourse happening, but like the first 4 episodes of season 2, people were like, nothing's happening and it's just soft and everyone being nice to each other. And I was like, from episode 6 on, it's a fucking massacre, mate. Like, you're in for a horrible shock that you think it's just going to be everyone being sweet for another 8 episodes. It was like lulling you in the first 4. So from 6 onwards, they're all pretty juicy, emotional ones. And sorry, what was the second part of the question?
Well, actually, I was asking just like how you kind of like thought about breaking that down and like getting into those end of the using that episode, obviously so much stuff happens that pays off later in the season. I just was curious about the breakdown, but actually you brought something up there that I think is even more interesting, is like, you knew where the season was going. I did see that Discourse, and I found it kind of amusing because again, like, you're reviewing, or people are like reviewing a show. It's like reviewing a book before you read the whole thing. You know, it's kind of silly. I guess when you're writing the season and you're kind of like laying the groundwork and knowing that it's going to lead to these like big emotional payoffs in the later episodes, did that surprise you, I guess, that people reacted like that? Or like, how did you guys think about how you were doing the setup versus the payoff, and like what was like when you were writing it?
I think I think this is something Jason talked about from the beginning. Like we see it as like a very long movie, like the whole thing's a movie. So I guess we're trying to play the long game of like, if this exists beyond one day you'll watch this in one go and it'll look like a big movie. So, and they did change, the season 1, the first 3 episodes came out at the same time, which is what I think we thought was going to happen with season 2. Had we known they were going to be released weekly from the beginning, I don't know if that would have changed how we did those first 3, because I think we saw that as like act 1. And maybe that would have been different had we known that. But you're kind of, it's just weird. It's just weird reading people's reaction, because you're right, they haven't finished the book yet, and sometimes you want to scream, "Just trust us!" Like you trusted us last year. Well, it's the same people. We're still here. But it's fascinating, and I get it, and it's also quite exciting, I suppose, to see what people think is going to happen. And there's a very strange. I've not really been in this position before to have been part of a show that, it's amazing. People talk about it. It's exciting, and the ownership that so many people have of it, and that they're angry about stuff, and that it's just fascinating. You're like, wow, this is all insane.
Yeah, for sure. The other episode I wanted to ask you about was, you also co-wrote the Beard After Hours episode with Joe Kelly, which I know that, and I think that was like, you guys maybe were going to do 10, and then the couple of standalones you ended up putting in. So that one,
that's right,
the Christmas episode. 100%. I really liked that episode a lot. I thought it was so fun. I'm a big Martin Scorsese fan, especially After Hours. I assume that was a huge influence based on the title and the events that happened. I guess, like, had you?
Yeah, we left a clue.
Yes, maybe. But can you talk a little about like that episode, and like, using, like, getting the opportunity to do those kind of standalone things from a writing standpoint, and like knowing that you kind of have that flexibility maybe within the show, I guess.
Yeah, well, you're right. It came about because we were given 2 extra episodes, and we'd very quite carefully plotted the 10. And at first we discussed it, like, could we sort of loosen it up a bit and fit 2 more in? And it just felt wrong. It felt like all the good work we'd done would be undone. So we were like, what can we do that would work on their own but also be part of it? So then we had the Christmas one, and then I think Jason had always wanted to do like a love letter to Brendan, which I was all for, and then look, the thing that I love about that episode, or what I'm proud about it, is I know there are people that really love it, and I know there are people that really hate it, but what I think is to have the opportunity to do something quite wild and out of, like, what I do think is no one expected that. Like, whatever you think Ted Lasso is, when you got to the end of episode 8, you did not think episode 9 is going to end with Beard hula hooping in an underground church club, and insulting Thierry Henry. Like, I like that we could do something that different, and also it was it's quite experimental. It's kind of like, what is this show if seen through the eyes of Coach Beard? And Coach Beard is not the same as Ted. Ted Lasso has a very rose-coloured view of the world, and Beard does not. So that's why the opening credits are different. The theme song is much more downbeat, and it's quite and Beard has a past that's probably affected his brain, and that's how you're viewing this whole episode. And I don't know, it's just very, to be allowed to do it was very, very cool, and I think it's nice to have the space, the budget, and the opportunity to do something that also could have worked very badly, but like, I'm proud of how it turned out. But like, it's a big risk in the middle of a show that people are thinking they know what it is.
Did you guys, was that a thing where you're just like tossing around like Man, it would be funny to see him do, like you said, like who, like how did you guys like come up with some of the scenarios? Like,
well, like without being pretentious about it, it's like the Odyssey, right? He's on this Odyssey, and it's all about signs and meaning, and he keeps missing the sign, and the sign is you are loved. Like he's on a sort of path of self-destruction, and he keeps dropping his keys, and the keys keep being handed. Here are the keys, and it's all he keeps missing. Love keeps being there to help him, and he keeps taking the wrong turn until the end, where he finally gets the key when he lets go and admits that he can have love. And but yeah, I'm sorry, what was the question?
that was the answer. That, like, kind of like your inspiration on some of that stuff, but no, that's great. Brett Goldstein, we have to wrap up here, but thanks.
All right, great.
WGA Award nominee for Ted Lasso.
Thanks for having me.